And thanks, Cheng Hai, for giving us a very wonderful and interesting sharing of what he has experienced in his doing projects and all that. So my name is Darren. I'm the director of the digital government transformation. So before I took on this role, I have spent many years as a solution architect on the ground delivering projects like Cheng Hai. And I have witnessed some of these problems that was described earlier, and they are all very real to me. So as I took on this new role, my new mission now today is that to build solutions and products to resolve some of these issues that we encounter on the ground. So now I have this new mission, taking my experience from the past and trying to move forward to make things better for everyone. Okay, so today I'm going to share how KAIZEN can help you accelerate your Agile process and overcome some of these obstacles that you have just heard about. And for some of you who really experience it firsthand yourself. So before that, I'm going to share a little bit of a brief history of those products that we have developed over the years. Some of you who have been working with us, you should be familiar with some of these products. So firstly, why do we build products? Products are actually an accumulation of all the experience that we have in delivering government systems over the last 20 over years. And it serves as a foundation for us to, with all the necessary building blocks for us to jumpstart our development so that we don't have to start from scratch every time. It encompasses all the best practices that we know and all the compliances to all the government standards and policies that we accumulated over the years, all built in the product so that we don't have to keep repeatedly building from scratch, so that we create so in Toppan Career, we actually don't solely depend on individual developer experiences or knowledge to build your systems. So we make it more efficient and more repeatable using a product as a base. And why are we rebuilding new products over the years when we already have a proven product in place? It is because technologies and policies shift over time. And we have to really keep on continuously reinvent ourselves to adapt and to keep up with stay relevant in terms of the new, keep relevant with the industry trends and all this. So you may have a 20-year-old Toyota that you actually is still running, but you don't get to enjoy the latest state-of-the-art technology and all the safety features of the modern car, and it may cost you a lot to maintain your old car. So at some point, you may want to decide that you want to change your brand new Tesla with all the latest state-of-the-art technology and all that. So it's essentially this reason we want to come up innovating, coming out with new products to stay relevant to the modern technology. So some of these products that we have built over the years, they are, don't get me wrong, they are actually cutting edge in their respective technological eras. But in the current era where cloud native, Gen AI and Agile development is the current trend. So we have just launched our new product, KAIZEN, to be to address some of this. So now KAIZEN is actually a Japanese term, which means continuous improvement and to change for the better. So it is about continuously making small incremental positive changes to your system or to your processes to improve its efficiency and quality over time. It actually characterizes what we actually want to achieve with Agile, which is to make continuous enhancement to your systems and to keep making changes to make a system better over time. So, which is why we have chose this name. So let me share some of the key highlights of KAIZEN. Firstly, it's built to deliver your business agility. How does it do it? So using Kaizen is going to be based on more configuration, less coding, so that your developer actually don't have to spend a lot of time writing code. And it offers a common tool chain that transits across your different cycle of your development, all the way from the design to the development, and also to your ops. So later we'll see how it actually does it. And it offers a more collaborative way approach of dealing with the design stage and prototyping. So later you're going to see that your product owners or your UI designers can actually collaborate using this Kaizen when working on the UI design. And you can even actually have send it to your hypo to actually review it when the design is more or less forming up, even before the development even starts. So as a result, we think that we can solve the problem of shortening the development cycle so that your sprints are actually more effective. And lastly, we are going to incorporate Gen AI as something like a co-pilot to assist the developers in creating even the UI designers when they are actually designing the screens. So we're going to incorporate some Gen AI features to accelerate that. And at the same time, also integrate to Gen AI when you're operationalizing your system so that it can help to improve your processes. So that is the key, one of the key highlight. So next, because government is moving to the cloud, in fact, as we are speaking now, the official numbers I heard before was around 70% of government system actually went to cloud already at this moment. So we want to build our product to be compatible with the cloud and exploiting the cloud. So we're going to have continuous delivery to the cloud using integrating with your ship and heads and all this. So it's going to be compatible with that. And once it runs in the cloud, it's going to leverage on all the cloud native services as much as possible so that we don't spend time rebuilding things that is already available in the cloud. And as a result, we can be elastic and resilient with the cloud. And one of the things that we're going to build in the platform is also about observability. So later, my colleague CK is going to cover this in more detail. But in a nutshell, observability give you a way to actually have a view of the internal state of your system during runtime, so that when the problems occur, it also helps you detect problems, and when the problem occur, you can have all the matrices and all the visibility into the internal state to quickly zoom into the root cause, so that your support engineers actually spend time resolving the issue rather than finding where is the problem and all that. And we're going to integrate intelligent IOPS to give you effective way of monitoring your system, so that you don't have to. Okay, basically, intelligent AI ops is about having the monitoring system learn the pattern of your system, such that you don't have to set very fixed thresholds. It learns how your system operates, how the pattern works, behave, and when something is out of the norm, it will actually alert you, and you can even automate some of the processes in terms of resolving the issues. Okay, the very important point here is about compliances. So for the government, compliance is actually a very important element. So compliance, not just for the sake of compliance, but also to make things more proper and more secure. So when we build Kaizen, and given our 20 over years experience in the government, we aim to be compliant with your standards. And not just to be compliant, but to be continuously compliant, in the sense that because your IM8 evolve over time, there are every now and then there are new changes to the policies, and there are new additions, new security compliance and requirements. So we aim to constantly keep up with the compliances, which is why can we can do that, because we build the product We own all the source code, and we are committed to the government. So if you are using some other platform or some other product, where the principal is actually in a foreign country, it's very hard for you to tell them that the Singapore government has certain requirements that they have to comply with. I mean, you can try, but sometimes it's very hard for them to see the point. So here we are giving you a commitment that we will be continuous compliant with your government standards. Okay, so KAIZEN actually is a stack that actually covers your front-end development. Front-end here as in the UI side of things, and it also covers the back-end services. For example, your APIs, your workflow processes, and all this. So it's a stack that is an Agile stack that covers development as well as ops. So we have the app designer that helps you quickly create UI prototypes, which we're going to show more of that later in the next session. And we have workflow designer that actually helps you design your workflow so that you can automate your workflow using the process automation. And the IAM will actually take care of your zero trust security so that you're compliant and your system is secure and people cannot just break into your system. And we have Gen AI, as mentioned earlier, to actually serve as a co-pilot to enhance, to accelerate your creation process, as well as your operational stage. Then this observability, which I also just talked about, to help you to accelerate your issue detection and troubleshooting and resolution. So scheduler is also very one common building blocks that we need in every system. You have your batch job and all this. So you need a scheduler to actually run it. And finally, your reports and dashboards. So it has the full spectrum of tools and building blocks for you to build the entire system in a way that is very quick, exemplary, very quickly and effectively, and yet be compliant with the government standards. So I'm going to talk a bit about how KAIZEN streamline your Agile development. So I'm really covering more into the what happens during a sprint, where just now you heard from Shanghai that a lot of time at the start of sprint, this is what actually goes on repeatedly in every sprint. So at the start of sprints, you choose some user story that you want to work on, and typically there's two stages. The first stage is the screen design or UI prototyping stage. And then you go into development, where you actually take the design and start coding into the actual UI. And you start building the backend side of things, the APIs to connect, and the workflow and all this. So the problem with the traditional approach is that you typically use a drawing tool to come up with the UI design. So you come up with a series of screens that is more or less static, and you get the users to actually go through the design. Sometimes if you don't use a good platform, you actually it comes out in a series of images and all that, and the user have to imagine how it's going to work, and they are trying to they have to, based on this very static, very low fidelity design, that to actually approve it. So after going through a lot of review cycle and all this, where you send the design around, gathering feedback and all this, when it's more or less finalized, in order to move to development, you actually have to break this down into design assets. So here you actually break you have a full design, and then you break down into the individual components, and you break down into some of the style sheet, for example, and some of the images that you use for the UI. And then you pass all these assets to the developer as well as the design. So the developer now has to look at your design, look at the components that you provided, and start coding, assembling what you actually came out with. So this process is all the problems that we spoke about earlier. There's going to be a lot of loss in translation. And it's going to take a lot of time for the developer to actually assemble the UI into a working system. And chances are it's not going to be look like what you actually approve in the original design. And you will find that the developer has to spend a lot of time going back and forth with the users to actually keep tweaking this UI. And they're going to lose a lot of time here before they even work on the actual backend logic and the things that really matter. So with Kaizen, we actually cut short this process. So using Kaizen, you can actually create something called a high fidelity interactive prototype. So as with all UI design tool, you can actually drag and drop and draw your screens, the buttons and all the images. You can actually drag and drop. It's very easy to create. Later you will see more of it in the demo. And with Kaizen, you can actually mock data so that you can actually visualize it better. So if I give you an empty form and empty page without any data, you're not going to be able to imagine how it's going to look like. And it can actually simulate all the navigation features. For example, if I click on this button, it's supposed to go to the next page. And when I click back, it is supposed to come back. So all this navigation can be actually built into the prototype. And you can even add in validation to make it realistic. Your front-end validation. For example, this field is an email. If you don't key in the email, it will show an error. All this can be easily mocked using Kaizen. Is easily created in the prototype. And some conditional logic, like if I select a particular option, another part of the form will actually come out. Or if I select one option, the other drop-down list now change to another set of values. So all this can be very vividly and very accurately reflect in the prototype. And last of all is after the UI designs create the prototype, the hi-fi interactive prototype, it's actually almost like the working system already. So we can actually share this link to the product owners and the users, or even to the hypo, to actually play around with the prototype. Go into the system, play around with the prototype, as if it's a working system. And they can actually comment directly on the prototype. For example, they want this button shift to the right, or they want a particular field to be added, or any comments. So they can actually click on the prototype and say that I want this change and all this. So all these comments are actually tracked by Kaizen. And once they send in a comment, the designers will actually can immediately add on it. They can actually make changes to the UI and respond back to the user. So as you can see, using this approach, no comments will be lost. Everything is tracked by Kaizen, and you will never encounter a situation where your comments are actually not conveyed to the developer. And after all this are done, once it's confirmed, Kaizen is actually able to auto-generate the front-end code. It's actually a React.js application. So all these are generated. So the developer don't really have to spend time rebuilding the design using the traditional approach, as you recall. And what the developer needs to do is just mainly working on the backend API and the backend validation and the workflow and all this. And they can focus on the real business logic and doing more testing. So using this approach, you actually get a more accurate translation of your design to the actual implementation. And you get the developer to work on things that really matters. And as a result, you get a better quality system. That's what we are trying to achieve. So I'm going to leave this to the next session for Xiaoqing to demo to you how it actually works. So these are some of the key features of the Kaizen App Designer. So as I mentioned, it has drag and drop features to create a UI quickly. It has the collaborative commenting feature where your users actually can come in and make comments directly on the prototype. And it has the Gen AI integration to accelerate the creation process. And it also has version history. For example, if you if you comment on a certain version of the prototype and you wanted some changes, for example, the button change the location, change to blue color, that kind of thing. So after you make the change, and then the next time you review, you find that, hey, actually not so good. So you have a change of mind. So all the versions are being tracked. So you can tell the designer actually prefer the older version. So actually, the designer can just come and revert back to the old version. So all these are being tracked. And there's also this capability that we integrate into KAIZEN as designer, such that when you are designing your page, you can actually invoke this tool to actually scan your page for performance and observability, accessibility, sorry. So typically, you do that when your system go live and you onboard to Woga inspect, and it will start scanning your page. But here, using KAIZEN, you can actually do it right at the design stage. So you essentially shift left your page quality testing, performance testing of your pages. Yeah, so with all this, how does it benefit the agencies? So with the accelerated agile development, you can be sure that your timelines can be met and the cost can be lower in terms of the development effort. And it's going to enhance your user experience in the sense that your users can now actually participate, collaborate better in terms of the creation, the design process. And you're going to get a more predictable outcome because, as I mentioned, the design that you approve is going to be generated in the code, and it's going to look exactly the way what you have seen in the prototype. There's no loss in translation. And because KAIZEN is built for cloud native, you get to have a more seamless way to adopt the cloud. And the compliance part is also taken care. And as a result, there's overall improved customer satisfaction. That's what this is all about and what we aim to achieve. So before I end my session, a quick recap. So some of the problems and obstacles that Cheng Hai has shared with you. So for example, the form design is not correct. Look and feel not what I want. So using KAIZEN, the solution is to create a high-fi prototype, high fidelity. It's going to have all the styling and all this done, and in a very realistic looking prototype, interactive, clickable, and all this for you, so that you don't have any surprises. And the feedback that we always hear users screaming that I actually feedback this in very early stage. How come it's not incorporated in the implementation? So all this will not happen because all the comments are actually centrally tracked by the KAIZEN. And things like your responsive design actually looks different from the prototype. So using KAIZEN, you directly create the responsive UI in the prototype, so that if things are not possible, you can't even create in the KAIZEN. So you don't overpromise your users, because you are actually creating a prototype that actually can be translated into code in one click of a button. And about streamlining the processes between the designer and the developer. So the way we do it is we do code generation. So the design is actually translated into code automatically, so that there isn't any room for interpretation, loss in interpretation or translation. So maybe I will move on to the question Q&A section.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Can we pass Darren the mic, please? So thank you so much, Darren, for your overview of how KAIZEN can help to streamline our customers' operations. We have a few meaningful questions on Pigeonhole already. So can we open the floor for some questions and answers with Darren? So he's currently taking a look at the Pigeonhole to see a few questions. Some of them have quite a few votes. So I suppose he would choose those with higher votes first.
Hello. Thanks, Emma. So we have quite a few questions. Okay. Okay, maybe I read out the question first. So how does KAIZEN ensure generated code quality and is free from vulnerable codes? So the generated code, the code generated by KAIZEN, we actually run them through some code quality analysis, and we make sure that it's going to follow all the best practices. So any issues, we'll go back to the code generator to fix, so that when you when you generate a code, it's going to be adhere to all the best practices. And actually, by doing that, we don't depend on developers to write good quality code. So we build it into the code generator itself, because the code generator is actually built by us. So I hope that answers that question. Another popular question is, how does KAIZEN implement zero trust security? So it's in a few ways. So firstly, when I'm talking from the user perspective first. So when a user actually first access the site, they will go into the so-called unauthenticated area of the site. For example, the landing page and all this. So so when they actually try to browse to a protected page, KAIZEN actually will redirect to the user to the IAM. So the IAM is responsible for doing the authentication. So IAM actually can federate with your SingPass, CopPass, or even on the intranet side, you can federate to your ADFS or Azure AD. So once it's the federated user is actually authenticated, it will then retrieve the assuming the user is already authorized. So it will retrieve all the authorization or all the permission or access rights for the user, and it will actually store them as claims in the JWT and send back to the user. So the next access from this same user will actually be the JWT will be validated, and the claims will be used to authorize the user. So that is from the user perspective. And this happens at every service layer. For example, nowadays we are talking about microservices. So when you actually click on a function, it goes to one of microservice, but the microservice may in turn call another microservice. So every layer, we actually do this validation of the JWT claims and all that. So on top of that, when the service-to-service call layer, at the infra layer, we actually integrate service mesh to do your, for example, your transport layer authentication and all that. So that's how we handle zero trust security. What is the difference between KAIZEN and other low-code platforms like Salesforce and OutSystem? So I guess we are also low-code, but we do things a little bit differently. So a lot of these local platforms out there that you have seen, actually, when they generate the runtime, when it's in operation, you still need the runtime. For example, your UI, if you use our system, you still need our system runtime to run your UI. So for us, we do it differently. So when we generate the code, the front end code is actually a React.js code. So it doesn't require runtime to run. That's the first difference. And secondly, I guess because we are a local company, we work very closely with the government for the last 20 over years. And the compliance part is something that we think we are strong at, because we know what it means to comply with government standards, which some of these products may not be able to address in a very good way, never say. Yeah.
Okay, shall we take one last question before we break out for our tea break session? We have quite a few questions actually, but let's leave them for the end, towards the end of the Q&A session. So Darren will take one last question.
Oh, interesting. So do you adopt Agile for the development of a new product? And what is the cadence of the product of such scale? Yeah, internally, we definitely adopt Agile. And maybe maybe I'll leave that question to Xiaoqing, who is our product development product manager. Yeah. So internally, we do adopt Agile. Lah.
Okay, once again, thank you, Darren. So now let's take a 20-minute brief tea break and to digest all that Darren has shared with us today. We also get to mingle over some coffee and tea, so please feel free to help yourself with the food. And don't forget, if you have any questions, you can still submit your questions via the QR code, the same QR code, and drop your questions down on Pigeonhole. So we'll be sure to answer them towards the end of the Q&A session. So enjoy the break. See you later.